Multiple drivers are now challenging Max Verstappen. General Motors and Andretti have been confirmed for the 2026 F1 grid. Charles claims the gloves are off after the Las Vegas incident. Do consider subscribing. Let's get straight into the latest F1 news. Proclaiming that every single driver who has ever contested a championship title against Max Verstappen has failed to instill any sense of intimidation within him. Fernando Alonso has made it clear that he plans to change that narrative. He believes he can rise to the challenge, but that might not happen until the year 2026. Recently, Verstappen etched his name into the history books of Formula One, as he became only the sixth driver ever to win 4 or more world championships. Not only that, but he is now the second driver in history, following in the footsteps of Sebastian Vettel, to win his first 4 titles consecutively. Verstappen's journey to his first championship began in 2021, when he engaged in an intense and fierce battle with Lewis Hamilton. That season was marked by dramatic moments and fierce competition. Following that, his second title came in a more straightforward manner against Charles Leclerc, as he managed to dominate the contest well before the season reached its halfway mark. In 2023, Verstappen continued to showcase his exceptional driving skills and maintained a level of performance that made him appear unbeatable. However, McLaren's talented driver Lando Norris posed a significant challenge, especially during key races in Austria, Austin, and Mexico, where their on-track battles were notable and entertaining. It was in Mexico, one of these crucial races, where Norris managed to prevail in an intense duel, highlighting the competitive spirit that exists between the two drivers. Nevertheless, Verstappen did not let this setback discourage him. Instead, he bounced back spectacularly, demonstrating his remarkable skills in wet conditions at the Brazilian Grand Prix, where he made an astonishing comeback, starting from 17th position on the grid and finishing first. He claimed victory with an impressive margin of 20 seconds, leaving his competitors, including Norris, behind. That day, Norris struggled, with a combination of a red flag disrupting his momentum and a couple of errors after the restart that cost him valuable positions on the track. As the season progressed, Verstappen expanded his lead, easing into a commanding 62-point advantage. This set the stage for the final showdown in Las Vegas, where he lined up on the grid with an opportunity to secure the Drivers' Championship title. Meanwhile, Norris found himself in a position where he needed to score at least 3 more points than Verstappen to keep the title race alive heading into Qatar. In the end, Norris finished significantly behind, coming in 6th place compared to Verstappen's 5th, allowing Verstappen to secure the championship with an unassailable 63-point lead. With Norris's challenge collapsing within just 2 consecutive Sundays, Alonso has expressed confidence that there will come a time when someone will rise up to confront Verstappen, and that he hopes to be that individual. However, he acknowledges that this may not come to fruition until 2026, when he expects to drive an Aston Martin designed by Adrian Newey, a renowned figure in the engineering side of the sport. Alonso conveyed this ambition in an interview with DAZN, stating that everyone who has competed against Max for championships so far has found it difficult to intimidate him. He expressed his hope that he would have the opportunity to change that storyline in the future. Alonso offered his congratulations to Verstappen, acknowledging the achievement and saying that he anticipates being in the mix come 2026. Following Verstappen's triumph, Alonso was among the first to extend his congratulations, approaching the young driver to share a warm moment that included a playful pinch on the cheek accompanied by a broad smile. He expressed his joy, saying that it was a big congratulations to Verstappen, emphasizing how special this latest championship must feel for him, especially considering that this year's car might not have been as dominant as it was in the previous season. Alonso recognized the impressive performance that Verstappen delivered, which allowed him to maximize the car's potential, even when the situation did not seem as advantageous. He pointed to Brazil as a prime example of Verstappen's exceptional driving capabilities. In his reflections, Alonso concluded that Verstappen's success this year was squarely attributed to his extraordinary skills as a driver. He acknowledged that there are always valuable lessons to be gleaned from observing a driver of Verstappen's caliber as he consistently delivers outstanding performances throughout the season. Lando Norris has strongly criticized the idea that his chances of winning the championship slipped away solely because McLaren had to make alterations to their controversial Mini DRS rear wing. He expressed his views rather plainly, dismissing such claims as totally unreasonable. McLaren's low-drag rear wing attracted significant attention after the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. where footage from the rear camera of race winner Oscar Piastri's car, the MCL38, showed the upper element of the wing lifting while speeding down the straight. This maneuver created an important gap that helped to reduce drag, assisting Piastri in fending off challenges from Charles Leclerc during the race. After reviewing the situation with the FIA, which is the governing body for motorsport, McLaren came to a decision to modify the low-drag wing that was utilized in Baku. A statement from the team clarified that while the rear wing they used in Baku complied with all necessary rules and successfully passed every deflection test conducted by the FIA, McLaren took the initiative to propose some slight adjustments to the wing after discussions with the governing body. The team also expressed their anticipation that the FIA would engage in similar talks with other teams regarding the compliance of their rear wings as well. Following these developments, McLaren took the step to proactively adjust their entire lineup of rear wings prior to the United States Grand Prix. The team communicated this to PlanetF1.com, stating that they had made minor modifications to all their rear wings since the Baku race to various degrees to avoid any further complications in this area. Since making these adjustments, McLaren has not managed to secure a Grand Prix victory. And with just one podium finish over the last 4 races, Norris could not maintain a strong push for the championship. This allowed Max Verstappen to officially claim the title during the Las Vegas Grand Prix, where he gained a lead that was impossible for anyone else to surpass, sitting at an impressive 63 points ahead. In response to the belief that the changes made to the rear wings were the reason for the team's struggles, Norris confidently pushed back against such speculation. He indicated that everyone wants to say whatever they want, and suggested that people can believe whatever narratives they create for themselves. He emphasized that the modifications made only resulted in a very slight improvement, much less than the public perception might suggest. To him, it had absolutely nothing to do with their challenges on the track. Despite the loss of the Drivers' Championship for Norris, McLaren still has a chance to win the Constructors' Championship, currently holding a 24-point lead over Ferrari with only 2 races left in the season. Norris believes that McLaren, particularly after implementing successful in-season upgrades that began with changes made for the Miami race, has become probably the best team on the grid. However, he acknowledged that their slow start to the season impacted their overall performance in the Drivers' Championship. Reflecting on the season, Norris noted that McLaren started off as the weakest of the top 4 teams, but has since become the most consistent and arguably the best team overall. He stated that he feels a sense of pride about their progress and does not regret anything, even if he sometimes wonders if he could have made different decisions. However, he is clear that he does not have any regrets about his performance, because even if he had delivered a perfect season, it is unlikely they would have won the championship, as he believes Max Verstappen drove exceptionally well and that the Red Bull team performed at an extremely high level. Norris pointed out that their chances were lost during the first 6 races, and while McLaren made an effort to catch up and their performance fluctuated throughout the season, they could not fully recover the lost ground. Still, he remains satisfied that they were able to put up a strong fight, and he is eagerly looking forward to the next season, anticipating the opportunity to be competitive right from the start. George Russell plans to give Max Verstappen a proper title fight next season, claiming Lando Norris should have taken it down to the wire this season. Verstappen secured his 4th successive Drivers' Championship title in Las Vegas on Saturday night as he raced to an unassailable 63-point lead over Norris. The McLaren driver was Verstappen's only threat this season and looked set to take the title fight all the way to Abu Dhabi when he slashed what had been Verstappen's 84-point lead at the midway point of the season after Silverstone to just 44 points after Brazil's sprint. However, 24 hours later it was over bar the shouting as Verstappen broke his winless streak as he raced from 17th on the grid to 1st in the Brazilian Grand Prix while mistakes cost Norris. The gap was back up to 62 points. Verstappen only had to finish ahead of Norris in Las Vegas to guarantee a 4th world title, and he did so, P5 in a Grand Prix won by Russell. The Mercedes driver was bullish after his victory, his 2nd for this season, and declared next year he'd give Verstappen a proper championship fight. "I just want to make sure we get in that fight now," he told Viaplay, "because it's about time somebody gave him a proper fight. That's my plan. That's what I want to do." He's a fierce competitor, and Red Bull are doing amazing, but this championship probably should have gone down to the wire. You could argue that Max probably wasn't the favorite at one point, and yet he wins it with races to go. So we need to get our stuff together to make it a bit more challenging. Russell is adamant Verstappen is beatable. Speaking to the media, including PlanetF1.com during the post-race press conference, he was asked if he was confident of taking the fight to Verstappen. "Yeah, definitely," he insisted. "Nobody's unbeatable." And you go through these phases where teams and drivers together are dominating, and people think if I went up alongside them, I wouldn't be able to compete with them. And you've got to have belief in yourself. I think, the three of us here, Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz included, all believe in ourselves. And for me personally, when I teamed up with Lewis is the greatest of all time, and Max is right up there with Lewis. So yeah, I absolutely believe in myself that we could fight him in equal machinery. However, his soon-to-be former teammate Lewis Hamilton was a bit more cautious as he acknowledged Red Bull's dominant form in the opening rounds that gave Verstappen a head start in the title race. "It really depends whether they have a second-and-a-half advantage at the first race again like they did this year," said the 2025 Ferrari driver. As for Carlos Sainz, although he awarded Verstappen the Driver of the Year accolade, he too believes the Red Bull driver can be beaten, if of course the other team's cars are on a par with the Red Bull. As much as I think Max has done an incredible job this year, it just shows the second half of the season, 8 drivers within a tenth of each other. "We could all beat him week in, week out," said the Spaniard, who is making way for Hamilton at Ferrari and will instead drive for Williams in 2025. He was extremely good, at dominating with a dominant car, and extremely good at not making mistakes the second half of the season. And that's what's given him, for me, Driver of the Year in the championship. But the second half of the season just shows that when we are all more of an equal machinery, we can all go up against each other and make each other's life difficult. Everyone starts making mistakes when they're under pressure, and everyone starts complaining about their car, and everyone starts complaining in the media about their car. And it's all about pressure management and not having that margin. Whenever you don't have a 2-3 tenths margin on your nearest rival or your teammate, suddenly a pressure ramps up and everyone is human. Formula One has confirmed the intention for the arrival of a new 11th team on the grid for 2026, with a Cadillac General Motors-backed entry entering the arena. After months of speculation, a GM-backed entry, branded as Cadillac, has been confirmed as having an agreement in principle to join the Formula One grid in 2026. Formula One is set to have a Cadillac-branded team from General Motors on the grid in 2026, following the reaching of an agreement in principle to support bringing GM onto the grid as an 11th team. The saga of an 11th F1 team stems back to the end of last year, when Michael Andretti's eponymous organization signaled its intention to enter Formula One and entered the formal tendering process begun by the FIA. One of several tenders to apply for the position of a prospective 11th team, Andretti was the only applicant to pass the FIA's stress tests, and the application was forwarded to the commercial rights holder, FOM, for further consideration. However, having secured the backing of U.S. manufacturing giant General Motors, the Andretti application was, rather brutally, rejected by FOM. However, the door was left open for GM to go it alone. In the months since the rejection, the prospective Andretti team has begun building up its facilities near Silverstone and at its U.S. campus, while also beginning the process of recruitment for its workforce. Major names like Graham Loden and Pat Simons have already committed to the project. Andretti didn't take the rejection lying down, going as far as U.S. Congress to plead its case, with a resulting antitrust investigation ensuing from the U.S. Department of Justice into the actions of Liberty Media and CEO Greg Maffei. In September, Michael Andretti stepped down from his role as CEO of Andretti Global, with Maffei last week, confirming he will depart his role at the end of 2024, the end of his contract. With GM's involvement in the Andretti team remaining unwavering, the American giant will take the lead on the branding of the new F1 team, with the initially Andretti-led program slowly evolving into a GM-led project with Dan Tauris at the helm. Cadillac has confirmed Mario Andretti, the 1978 F1 world champion, will serve as a director for the F1 team. My first love was Formula One, and now, 70 years later, the F1 paddock is still my happy place, Andretti said. I'm absolutely thrilled with Cadillac, Formula One, Mark Walter, and Dan Tauris. To still be involved at this stage of my life, I have to pinch myself to make sure I'm not dreaming. GM also intends to create its own F1 power unit to create a full works team with Cadillac, with this project set for completion by the end of the decade. In a statement to media, F1 confirmed a dialogue has been maintained with GM and its partners since January, and due to the operational milestones and clear commitment, is therefore pleased to move forward with this application process and will provide further details. General Motors is a huge global brand and powerhouse in the OEM world and is working with impressive partners, said FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem. I am fully supportive of the efforts made by the FIA, Formula One GM, and the team to maintain dialogue and work towards this outcome of an agreement in principle to progress this application to bring a GM Cadillac branded team onto the grid for the 2026 FIA Formula One World Championship. All parties, including the FIA, will continue to work together to ensure the process progresses smoothly. Mafi welcomed the addition of such a prestigious US brand like GM, saying, "With Formula One's continued growth plans in the US, we have always believed that welcoming an impressive US brand like GM Cadillac to the grid and GM as a future power unit supplier could bring additional value and interest to the sport. We credit the leadership of General Motors and their partners with significant progress in their readiness to enter Formula One. We are excited to move forward with the application process for the GM Cadillac team to enter the championship in 2026. Charles Leclerc has warned Carlos Sainz the gloves are off in their final 2 races as Ferrari teammates, as he'll be thinking about myself only. Leclerc was furious with Sainz at the Las Vegas Grand Prix, where the Spaniard seemed to ignore team orders and attacked Leclerc for 3rd place, taking 3 points away from the Monegasque drivers' fight to beat Lando Norris to 2nd place in the drivers' standings. Returning to the track after his 2nd pit stop, Leclerc was told by his race engineer Brian Bozzi, "Carlos has been told to not overtake, but it is really close. You might be just in front." Bozzi continued, "He has been told to not put you under pressure, so just take care of your tires." But as Sainz swooped around him to take the position, Leclerc replied, "Maybe try in Spanish." Leclerc finished the Grand Prix in 4th place, scoring 12 points as he reduced his deficit to Norris in the drivers' standings to 21 points. But it could have been 18. He was fuming and launched into an F-bomb-riddled rant in which he decried that being nice fucks me all the fucking time. It's not even being nice, it's just being respectful. Leclerc insists being respectful won't be on the cards at the next race in Qatar. "I am not happy about Carlos, but I won't go into details," said the 8-time Grand Prix winner. "Why?" "Because we talk about these things before the race, and I'm always the only one who respects those agreements. From now on, I will be thinking about myself only. It's a shame that I couldn't get more points on Norris." Saturday night's 50-lap Grand Prix was a strategy nightmare for Ferrari, with both Leclerc and Sainz having to yield to the other at various points. Leclerc did so first as he killed his tires trying to attack George Russell for the lead, so made it easy for his teammate to overtake him. Asked about that swap, he told the media, including PlanetF1.com, "Me on Carlos? You mean me letting Carlos pass? I think I did it on the first straight and I didn't even have the message from the team. I said it on the radio that I would do it." Sainz later yielded to Leclerc as Lewis Hamilton closed in on the back of the Ferrari teammates, only to then ignore team orders later in the race to claim the final podium position. It's not the first bout of tension this season between the teammates, and it is unlikely to be the last, especially in light of Leclerc's tentative response when asked if he agreed with Sainz's comment after qualifying that the collaboration between the teammates is as good as ever. Yes, was the telling response. Thanks for watching. I'll see you around.